We'll call this meeting back to order, 9:58, and we have the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent.
So I have a motion by Starsky and a second by Natoli, I think. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have adopted the consent agenda. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Can you report out on the closed session?
The board authorized a settlement figure for administration.
Thank you. Item 8, public hearing. Conduct a public hearing on our budget and set a hearing date for our budget adoption. Larry?
Okay, we cue up the presentation, please. All right, presentation outline. I'll do the initial start of this, and Jamil Moons will do the rest of it. First, I wanted to very quickly review district initiatives and priorities for the year. You can see here that obviously we want to meet our non-attainment goals, track a lot of programs, legislation. We have a bill more in the legislature, but there's a lot of other things going on, and then the federal issues. We are working this year to do a lot of improvement in our air monitoring stations. A lot of them have deteriorated, and we're doing some replacements there. Jamil will speak to the MIS enhancements. We are looking out over the next couple of years of really trying to access new technology. Some of the ideas and thoughts she's brought over from the city to really make ourselves more efficient and help our staff be more efficient in doing the budget and all the other work that we do. We've asked for a grant for community scale air toxics from the federal government, and we hope to get that, and that would be a way we could work with several communities here in Sacramento to sort of really get a better idea of what's happening in their community. We've previously briefed the board about the new OEA air toxic numbers that have come out. We're going to be bringing this back to the board several times over the next months. We need to respond to those new numbers, which show the apparent numbers of air toxics at stationary sources are a lot higher than they have been in the past. We're responding to that in a way that will sort of level the playing field for our business community, but also protect the public health. We will be developing our regional ozone plan against the 2008 standard, and we have many partnerships that we are working on all the time. As you well know, those of you just come back from Cap to Cap, that was a good example of those. We know about 3 anticipated changes that are not in the current budget that we will be bringing back in May. The first is a plan that we've just come up with in working with the Midtown Business Association. It is very hard for businesses, especially small businesses, to access the Transportation Management Association's ability to have, like, if employees will take transit to work or biking, if they have an emergency, the TMAs provide a guaranteed ride home. So what we want to do is incentivize, do a pilot project where we would go in to to PBIDs, to business parks and some other locations, and run a pilot program in, I think, 7 different locations. If the TMAs want to do that, then what we would do is we would have a pilot program up to $5,000 for each of them to give our small businesses a year, if you will, to practice, to see how this works, and then after the year, if they want to continue doing that. But even getting into that, we think working with the business associations and the PBIDs, that we will be able to really access a lot bigger universe of businesses, and we'd like to. And what happens there is we get a lot more people taking transit and taking bike to work and so on like that. We give them another opportunity. The second thing is we want to run using the BERC, which is the ombudsman organization that we've worked with at the county and SMUD and the city for years. This money's funded through DMV, and we have several programs we want them to run for the benefit of the Air District. Some studies, and also working with the Chambers of Commerce and some other groups. And lastly, I talked to SACOG a week ago. They are working on their latest Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And as those of you who are on the SACOG board know, they're very close on their PM 2.5 conformity number. They need us to expedite our maintenance plan for PM 2.5 so that the federal government could then put in a baseline for PM 2.5, and they won't have to do the build scenario every time they put a project through. They're very close to not being able to put projects through, even on projects that the SACOG board has already approved. So this would benefit SACOG if we were able to get this person in, move this forward. Secondly, we have a number of people who will be retiring over the next couple of years. We want to go ahead and get somebody in staff that can learn this very difficult expertise in doing the planning that is needed for this kind of program. And we just think it makes sense now. We thought we were on the verge of recommending that, but this new requirement and to support SACOG, we think sort of pushes us over. We'll come back to the board with a lot more information for the May budget, but I wanted to alert you that we were aware of these 3 items that would be included in May that aren't in the budget that you're seeing today. And the board still has the ability in May to say no, but I wanted to let you know so you could be thinking about that. With that, I'm going to ask Jamil to come up and run through quickly the budget overview.
Okay. Good morning, Vice Chair Terry and board members. As Larry mentioned, my name is Jamil Moons. I'm the Administrative Services Manager with the district, and it's my pleasure this morning to go over the proposed budget, the 15-16 proposed budget with you. Just to mention, a few weeks ago we did meet with the subcommittee of the board, the budget subcommittee, and we had a great meeting with them and went over some of the details. And so what we'll be presenting today is the proposed, and as Larry mentioned, we'll be back in about a month with the final budget. So with that, what I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to speak a little bit about the budget document itself and then get into the 3 different funds we have here. For those of you who are longstanding board members, it might be a little bit repetitious, but hopefully it'll be helpful to some of the new board members to talk about just a high level of the 3 different funds that we have that make up the district budget. And then I'll get into some numbers. Hopefully your eyes won't roll back in your head as I get into that, but it'll give you enough information so you understand the high level activity that is going on in the budgets. And finally, I'll wrap up with some improvements that we're looking at around our financial systems, both accounting and our database systems in our core operations. So the budget document itself. This budget document reflects the funding necessary to carry out the basic mission of the district. It reflects all the daily operations we do, from rule writing and permitting and compliance, land use, and the administrative functions. All of that is in there, as well as those priorities that Larry just mentioned, the programmatic priorities for the district. We're also happy to share with you that it is a balanced budget, and that is that we have sufficient funding to continue the good work of the district and the ongoing operations that are currently underway. And lastly, I'd like to take a minute to actually really thank the fiscal and administrative team of the district. They did a fantastic job on this budget. Not only did they do the difficult work to pull together all the financial data and perform the rigorous analysis that's required, they went above and beyond and incorporated some elements to address some comments we received from the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. Those comments came with an award. We got an award for a distinguished presentation of this budget, so it was a fantastic budget, the current year's budget, but the team went above and beyond and incorporated some additional elements so that the document is not only contains the information, but is very readable in a presentable way, and also allows our readers to really navigate well and find what they want. And lastly, it's posted on our website there at www.airquality.org, and it is bookmarked, so you can navigate through the document quite easily if you have particular interests in any area of the budget. So the 3 funds that make up the district budget. The first fund is 570A. It's our operating budget, which essentially houses all the fiscal activity of the district with the exception of the administrative building, which we call the Covell building. It has its own fund and separate financial tracking. And the third fund is the Emission Technology Fund, and that fund is our pass-through dollars for our incentive funding program for emissions technology. So otherwise the operating fund carries all the employee salary and benefits, utilities, major contracts program outside of emissions technology. The primary funding sources, as you can see for the operating, are quite varied. It's the permit fees, DMV, pass-through dollars through CMAQ, ARB, and the Moyer administrative funds. The Covell building is financed through tenant rents. So we have part of that building, and we have very good news that on the second floor we do have a signed lease agreement with another tenant that will take up the majority, a large portion of the second floor. So we're excited about that. You will see some changes, minor changes to that budget coming forward in the final from the proposed. The overall budget won't change essentially because the cost is the same, but we'll be reducing some of the fund balance that's supplementing and basically supplanting that, and we'll increase rents with that new tenant contract. So that's good news, and we're working hard on getting that last little portion of the floor rented. And lastly, for the emissions technology, there's three primary funding sources. It's the Moyer Incentive Fund and the Good Movements Emissions Reduction Program, GMERP, as we fondly call GMERP, and our DMV match. Those are the funding sources that go through on emissions technology. So those three funds are what make up the consolidated budget. Here, I'm going to get into each of these in a little more detail, but I just did want to hit on some high-level points on the budget, the overall budget, and that's to say that our operating budget is increasing just under $1 million, and I'll talk about what makes up the revenues and the expenditures of that $1 million. The Covell building is a fairly status quo budget, very minor changes to that one from the current year to to next year's proposed, and the emissions technology is where we've identified just recently a significant change that we want to make. Essentially, and I will get into more detail on this, it's reducing down some fund balance, DMV $2 fund balance. We had appropriated $7 million for that, and it was acting sort of as a bridge because of some funding dynamics we have there, but we've determined that we don't need that. So we're reducing that down. So we're reducing down the use of reserves essentially in that fund, and I will get into more detail. So overall, from the current year's amended budget to next year, we are looking at about $45 million, just over that, and a decrease of about $9 million from year to year. So the roughly $922,000 that I described there, which is what's increasing in the operating fund, it's composed of a few different things where the funding's coming in from. We are projecting some increases in DMV and Measure A due to the improving economy, so that's good news. And we are also anticipating a new grant, an air toxic grant for about $361,000. So right there's about a third of the increase in the budget is reflected in a grant that will be essentially a pass-through. We'll bring it in and we'll expend it out. So that's a big chunk of that. The third year of the stationary source permit fee, approved fee, will be going into effect, adding some additional revenues in that category. And then we are anticipating a slightly higher settlement. These are areas that are really hard to forecast, but we do our best at forecasting it. So in settlements, we're expecting a little bit more over the current year's budget, but a little less in land use due to the dynamics of land use and some of the developers using better technologies, phasing their projects a little bit better. We're expecting a slight decrease. So for a net decrease of roughly $177,000 in that funding category. And finally, we balance our revenues out with some use of reserves. On the expenditure side, the salaries and benefits make up a portion of that increased expense. Half of that, $249,000, is an additional employee in stationary sources. It's an existing employee, but we're proposing to fund it. So we've been carrying it as an unfunded position, and now we're proposing to fund that. The other half of that salaries and benefits is from our approved contract agreement with our employee association for the cost of living increases. The larger number there, the $752,000, represents primarily our professional services. Of that, half of that is that grant. So remember the air toxic grant for the 361, that's half of that 752. The rest of that, the balance, are those particular programs that you see up there and a few other. Those are the larger ones, the air monitoring, our Spare the Air program, the wood stove, and sponsorships. So all of those fall into that particular category. So that's the balance out of that 922 on the expenditure side. Excuse me. Moving on to the Covell Building Fund, as I said, that one's the fairly benign one. It's status quo. We do have the new tenant, which we are very excited about. So as I mentioned, we will go in and make some of those adjustments to reflect the rents and use of fund balance. And finally, we do have a capital budget there in that building. We are expecting to change out the carpets on the 3rd floor. We are going to move forward with some ADA updates and improvements that have been identified. And we do have a little over $100,000 earmarked for tenant improvements that is in the new lease with our tenant that we will expect them coming forward to us with over the next year to make those improvements, and that's all negotiated. And here is the third one that I alluded to back at the beginning, which is a little more complex, and I know this is a lot of numbers, so I'm going to kind of walk you through it. Starting on the blue column there on the proposed budget. Initially, we had proposed using $13 million, $13.2 million in reserves and what we call carry forward. This fund has an interesting dynamic, so I kind of want to take just a minute to explain it. Again, I want to remind you that this is all pass-through money. It doesn't pay for salaries, it doesn't pay utilities, it doesn't pay any of that. It's 100% pass-through, and it's to those folks, owners of large heavy equipment, tractor trailers, buses, some heavy-duty farm equipment, and there's a program where when they change that out, we help incentivize that, and we give them funding to get rid of that older technology for use of more efficient emissions technology to reduce emissions. So this fund carries strictly the amount to pay out those contracts. So when you see some of this big dollar movement, it's really around the dynamic of the funding sources we receive. As I mentioned, Moyer and the GMERP program, Goods Movement, I'm going to learn this, is GMERP is the major funding sources. So our team has anticipated receiving just over $4 million in Moyer this upcoming year and about $10.5 million from GMERP, and then our little over $2 million match with DMV. That's all going to go in contracts. We had originally budgeted an additional $7 million to sort of bridge the timing of when we execute these contracts and when we have to pay them out and when we get the funds in from these agencies like GMERP. But working with the staff, they said, you know, it's kind of a placeholder there, but we're not going to execute the contracts till we have the money in, and we've got some contingencies there. So we're just proposing to back out that sort of bridge money there. And we feel that we're going to be fine. And that's essentially what's happening. Let me go back one column. So if you see the projected actual, so right now, the projected actuals for the current year is around 22. So we're very much in line. So we did that in the current year. We kind of had some bridge money there, but we didn't need it, and we're coming in at 22, even though we budgeted that 32 million. I don't know if I have the little laser light here. It doesn't really show up there. But in the amended budget, you see that we were budgeting 32 million. We're expecting to come in about 22. So our budget for next year is much more reflective of where we're performing right now and where the team thinks that they can perform next year. Lower on the expenditure side, we're proposing to actually expend more in contracts. They feel that they are going to execute and be able to pay out about 18 million in contracts instead of the original 13 million. And since that 7 million went away, we're not going to have as much just going back into reserves. One more dynamic of this fund to share with you, which is why you see that 4 million going back into reserves. Moyer money that comes in the current year is basically we have to spend the prior year's funding because we got money last year. So we're essentially, this fund has an arrears type of dynamic. So we bring the money in, we move it into arrears, and we budget last year's money for the current year. So the 4 million we're getting in this year as new revenue from Moyer, we're just going to move straight into reserves, and we're budgeting up top use of reserves, that 6 million. That's prior year Moyer money that we're moving in to use. And I know that's a lot of detail, but I just wanted you to be comfortable and understand that when we're proposing some of these changes, it's really the dynamic of the timing of the funding, executing of the funding, and carrying forward. So the real bottom line here to look at and to essentially hold us accountable to is those incentive contract expenditures. How many contracts are we going to get done, paid out, and executed in the year? And we're hoping to do 18 million this year. Okay, moving on. So just to summarize some of the changes we do anticipate from the proposed budget, all of you have in front of you, as well as what's posted on the website. These are some of the changes we're aware of. The TMAs, the Transportation Management Associations that Larry spoke to, and Burke, and that additional planner position. Those will go in, and those will impact essentially the operating budget, so you'll see those adjustments. What I've just described here in the Missions Technology Fund, the 15-16 budgeted revenues and expenditures, and we also did, in going through this budget, we did see an oversight. One of the actual columns in the Emission Technology Fund, the 13-14 actuals column, was not completely updated. The first half of it was, and half of it wasn't. So unfortunately, our numbers are incorrect, and we will get that fixed. That does not affect the budget going forward, but it is a benchmark for, and those numbers need to be corrected. So we will take care of that. Other changes that I have mentioned are that we will do the Covell Building Fund to reflect the new tenant, some very minor budget adjustments that we've been made aware of, and we're adding some additional information. We are adding a map of the district at the beginning of the budget document to give a little, again, some comments that came back from GFOA. We're trying to be responsive to that. We are updating our air monitoring stations map because we have one new one online and took one off, so we want to make sure that's updated. So there are some very small, minor things to keep the document accurate and updated that you'll see coming into the final budget. So the last thing I want to do is wrap up on some things that we're looking at to streamline our fiscal processes. As you have kind of got a feeling for, we have some pretty complex funding streams here at the district, and we need to track those in a very detailed way. And we have this concept is these multi-year carryovers, and the way we're doing what I just described gets a little bit cumbersome. There are financial tools and processes that we can use, and so we're looking at some software that we might be able to utilize. Right now, the staff does an incredibly good job managing all of that now without the use of a really complex, robust financial system. So we have some consultants on board right now that are taking a look at that. We're looking at our databases that manage our permitting system, our enforcement and compliance pieces, and we're looking at all of that and seeing how we can kind of move forward into the future, make it web-based, make it so that it's user-friendly and accessible to our sources and the community, and that it integrates to our financial system. So all that's underway, and we hope to come back to you with some good news and a strategy moving forward in the summer sometime on that project. So in closing, I would just like to ask that the board close the public hearing and, provide direction to staff that the board close the public hearing and please provide us direction for the final budget and set the public hearing for the adoption of the 15-16 budget for May 28th, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we need to open a public hearing right now?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll open the hearing. Do we have any public comment?
No, I
No?
didn't have
Okay.
anybody sign up.
I saw Don.
Yes, I had three
Commissioner
brief questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jamil, thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask first about the addition that will come from between proposed and final on the planner, and I heard Larry's presentation about, SACOG being very desirous of us doing this. Is SACOG willing to put some money forward to help us with this, or are we going to fund this on our own?
Well, this is something that we had planned to do later ourselves. It's our requirement to do this.
Our requirement?
Yes. And this is a position we had thought of, we had known this is a position we lost a person in a few years ago. and we knew that we had sort of a hiatus in plans that we had to put together. So we were waiting until these plans came forth, and then we would rehire this position. Okay. So we're just moving up something that we had planned to bring next year for the purpose of supporting SACOG on the conformity piece. We think in good partnership, that's a fair thing for us to do, since it's our responsibility to do this.
Okay, you answered my question about the responsibility.
Okay.
And just to that point, the second question I had was on the DMV surcharge. We were showing some increase, and that was pointed out in both Jamil's presentation as well as yours. But the two surcharges, the $4 shows up on your registration as a Sacramento County resident. The $2 surcharge, which is under the administration, where is that? Is that buried in the overall DMV fees, or where is that? Because there's two different. You break out a $4 and a $2 surcharge.
I'm going to ask Mike Sinkovich. He's our controller to
didn't have to ask him. He was always on the way down.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to have to ask for help here, Don.
Yeah.
The $2 surcharge, the majority of that goes to the incentive contract, the 570C, as match monies. We get a small portion of 5% admin fee off of the $2 surcharge that goes to the incentive fund.
But that's applied statewide? The $2 surcharge?
No, it's not.
So is it a $6 surcharge, Sacramento County?
The $4 is applied generally statewide, DMV money that comes back to us. The $2 was AB 923 money, which was approved by the legislature quite a few years ago, but every board had to approve that. And what that does is that provides incentive funding in addition to what we're getting already.
So that's the local piece.
That's a local piece
okay,
approved by our board. It goes directly back to our businesses, and we use it as match money. It helps us to leverage other monies that we would bring too. So that money is fenced off. That extra $2 cannot be used. We only get the 5% that Mike mentioned as admin. The rest of that goes directly to the business community.
But stays here.
It stays in our district.
Stays in our district.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. Last question I had then just goes to page 32, again, part of the general budget for the vehicle replacement in our fleet. And I know that a lot of jurisdictions have historically used a 80, 90, or 100,000 replacement plan. And I guess I'm curious about maybe visiting at some point in time, and I don't know whether other jurisdictions are or not, but it seems to me that a lot of newer vehicles, certainly cleaner air vehicles and so forth, unless they're under very heavy loads, but they're used for normal, travel and back and forth, go far longer than 100,000 miles and are designed to do so, and not that there's not normal wear and tear that occurs. And so I guess I'm curious about whether we can look at it makes sense to go a little longer. Obviously, you still have to incur costs in buying new vehicles, and you can amortize those costs over time. And so, again, this isn't atypical. And I guess my question, I don't need to have a firm answer today. I'm just curious about that particular.
Okay. How about if we talk about this a lot,
okay.
and we think a lot about this. So how about if I just bring back to the board next for the budget a little fact sheet which tells you what we're doing with our vehicles. Because we sort of balance the service on the vehicles, and we've really worked hard to reduce the cost of our vehicle fleet, but we also want to have clean vehicles as an air district. So we sort of balance those two. So we'll add to the budget presentation next time just a fact sheet that we'll offer the board about how we do our.
We're replacing Priuses, as I understand. That's the actual. So we actually are replacing clean vehicles with clean vehicles. So
yes, and we are very thoughtful about how we do that, and we pick the older vehicles and such as that. But I'll provide that to the board next time.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Roberta, I think you.
Thank you. I also have a request for more information to be brought back at the budget hearing next month. For continuing to balance the budget with reserves, I'd like to know be able to see the reserves we have for each of these funds and the trajectory that we're moving in as we to determine if that's a wise course of action.
Yes, Director McGlashan, we can absolutely do that. We do have a table in here on fund balances. However, that will change significantly just based on the conversation we had today. So we will have that as part of our presentation and give you a sense for where those fund balances are going and how we're using those.
Thank you.
We have a couple of pages in the budget that cover that, but we'll call those out and be more explicit in answering that question at the next hearing.
And Commissioner Frost?
I just have a question regarding the Emission Technology Fund and your incentive contracts, and I'm just curious to know how you project the incentive contracts that you feel that you're going to be able to do in the next year. It seems like they're going up quite a bit each year, but I just wonder how you project that.
Part of it is this experience on what we've had coming in. Part of it is the amount of money we have, because we have 4 or 5 different funds. Each of those it has different rules for who can access it and who can't. Some of them are off-road, some of them are on-road, and so on like that. So that's the staff's best guess at what we're going to have coming through the door. We have money in the bank to cover most of those, but when somebody comes in and says, I'd like, and we go out and we do a lot of public outreach to the truckers and business community about these programs, then people have to, it's voluntary, they have to come through the door. When they come through, we try to put them into the right box for their need, whether it's a tractor or an on-road truck or a road grader or something like that. So we can't be precise looking forward, but we have a lot of experience looking back, and so it's balanced between what we can do, how much work we can do with the staff we've got, and how much money we have available.
And then if you exceed what we budgeted, then you just come back and ask for an exception.
We would come back and make a budget adjustment, because if we had more people that wanted this, we actually have money in the, in reserves in those accounts. As Jamil was talking about, we have money. We like to have the money whenever we can ahead of time, so that when we write a contract, we've got the money in hand.
So then, based on Commissioner Supervisor McGlashan's comment, then we'll know what's in each reserve. It'll be separated out.
Yes, like I said, we do have some of that information in the budget, but we will call that out specifically and address it as a specific issue, because it's in the budget document. But that question you'd have to read the whole thing and look through it. And since it's a specific question, we will bring that back and show that to the board.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'll close the public hearing. We need a motion to accept this and to set the date. Is that what I'm?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Natoli, seconded by Starsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I think that was our final item. Bring my agenda back up, but I think we are adjourned. Right?